This guy's a hulking giant. Compared to him, everyone else looks like pathetic little dwarfs, and he's not just big, he's absurdly strong. When he comes across a massive ogre that even bullets can't penetrate, he shocks everyone by casually obliterating it with just a couple of blows. He doesn't even break a sweat. Then when he ends up in the middle of a lake full of alligators, instead of becoming their meal, he wipes them out single-handedly because his skin is stronger than steel. He drags their bodies ashore and roasts the gators whole. Then he eats them right there, biting off one huge chunk after another. Everyone around him is in shock and can't help but wonder who he really is. The thing is, barbarian blood runs through his veins, and here's how he ended up among humans many years ago. In the land of barbarians, the strongest warrior fights against a group of hostile tribesmen. These barbarians are born fighters raised as lethal warriors who gladly die in battle for honor. The warrior calls out to his wife to activate a spell while he buys her time. Watching from a distance, Aiden considers his father to be the bravest warrior of them all. Though his father was betrayed by his own tribe, he continues to fight to protect his family and his dignity. As the man fights fearlessly, his mother tries her best to complete the incantation. She eventually succeeds in activating the magic, causing a strong beam of light to emerge. She pushes Aiden toward the light, wanting him to go anywhere in the land of stars because any place is better than this bloody battlefield. With tears in her eyes, she bids farewell to her son. Even though Aiden feels scared, his father reminds him to become strong, as that is the only way he will be able to protect what belongs to him. Our protagonist cries hopelessly, but still decides to follow that advice. Even while facing death, his father feels neither regret nor fear. Carrying only the pride of a true barbarian, the scene shifts to show a modern city. There, a group of bullies gathers around a boy who looks quite wealthy. They demand he hand over all of his possessions. That rich-looking student is actually Gente Kim, a senior at GNL High School. He requests that they stop before things get serious, but the leader of the bullies mocks him for the warning. Gente tries to tell them that his friend is on his way. The leader sarcastically dismisses this friend, asking if he is the Hulk or some kind of monster. Before the bully can hit Gente, someone breaks the wall beside him and lands a powerful blow on the leader. The bullies stand stunned at the sight of the crumbling masonry. Suddenly, our boy emerges from the broken wall. This guy's name is now Chelu Kang, and he is also a senior at GNL High School. The panicked bullies demand to know his identity. Chelu reveals that he is Gente's friend, though internally he is the only one who knows he is actually a barbarian. After taking care of the bullies, our hero and his friend leave the area. Gente mentions how impressive it was to see him smash a wall with his bare fist, even doubting if Chelu is human. Our protagonist flinches and insists that he is indeed a human. Internally, he reflects that it has been a decade since he arrived on Earth. Gente still seems suspicious, which makes Chelu wonder if he still gives off barbarian vibes. Ignoring his friend's statements, he decides to head home. Once there, our boy finishes 3 bowls of rice. Yet his old man thinks he is eating too little. While starting his 6th bowl, Chelu explains he has lost his appetite lately. He expresses concern for his grandfather, who isn't eating at all. The old man explains that he can't properly digest food anymore and feels full just by watching his grandson eat. Our hero feels grateful for this elder. Back when he first appeared on Earth, his gramps took him in without expecting anything in exchange. In the present, the old man reveals that a Director Park called him earlier. He asks if Chelu told the director that he wants to become a boxer. Our boy instantly clarifies that he does not want to become an athlete. This leaves the old man in shock since he doesn't understand the reasoning. As far as the old man remembers, Chelu has been winning awards in every sport. On the contrary, our protagonist internally points out that humans and barbarians are totally different species. He believes that participating in human sports would be a violation of fair play and sportsmanship. Even though he doesn't want to disappoint his grandfather, he knows that a barbarian can only truly be a warrior. Recalling his last moment with his father, Chelu decides not to play sports made for humans because he desires a bloody fight against someone who matches his actual strength. The main problem is that Earth is simply too peaceful. Soon, however, the old man sees shocking news on the TV. In Chengdu, many people have lost their lives, and the government has decided to investigate the matter thoroughly. Gramps reveals that around 120 people have died. According to the news, the incident is related to some kind of monster. Some new footage pops up on the news showing an unidentified creature that was spotted nearby. The second Chelu sees it, he starts to tremble. This gets the old man worried, but our hero knows it's time to hit the road. A little later, he and Gintai are on their way to Chongju. They're cruising in Gintai's dad's brand new car. While they're driving, Gintai gives his buddy a friendly reminder that he still needs to get a driver's license. After thanking him, Chelu can't stop thinking about the creature from the news footage, recognizing it from his time in the land of barbarians. He figures this whole incident has to be connected to his old home world. Out of nowhere, their car gets stuck at the entrance to the Yongamam tunnel. There's a huge crowd gathered, which can only mean something serious is going down. Ginty spots soldiers mixed in with the crowd, and our boy puts two and two together. This must be the disaster area. Noticing his impressive build, a stranger walks up and asks what company he's with. Turns out these guys are from Nuong Development Incorporated. One of the guys hands Chelu a business card asking him to join their crew. Holding the card, our protagonist wonders if it's some kind of warriors guild. The stranger just laughs and explains that their organization is in the business of colonizing a planet. So they're looking for laborers, not warriors. After a brief pause, Chelu rips the business card to shreds. The idea of a proud warrior being reduced to a simple worker is a major insult to him. The company man is absolutely furious at the rejection. He starts mocking Chelu for going on about being some kind of warrior. The tension skyrockets as they both get ready to throw down, but their little scuffle gets cut short when something totally unexpected happens. A dark void materializes at the tunnel entrance. People start bracing for whatever's coming through, while poor Gintai just stands there in shock, completely bewildered by everything. All of a sudden, a system window pops up in front of a giant black sphere, announcing that the Doomsday exam is about to begin. Another window appears, revealing the chilling news: Doomsday is coming to Earth. A third pop-up explains that there's a refuge planet called Nova, which offers salvation for the people of Earth. The final message tells everyone to escape to Nova through the portal. Just then, a massive beam of light shoots down into the middle of a forest. Ginte and Chelu appear out of that light, finding themselves smack in the middle of the woods. Ginte immediately starts freaking out, totally lost on how they were just teleported to the middle of nowhere. He starts blaming our protagonist for dragging him into this mess, and of course panicking about his precious car. And just then another system window pops up, telling them they need to get 1 goblin coin to see the reward for advancing to the novice class. While Ginta is still trying to wrap his head around all this, our hero tells him to snap out of it and pay attention. Wouldn't you know it, they're immediately swarmed by a horde of goblins. Ginta just freezes up, completely stunned that the system actually expects them to fight and kill these things. Before Ginty can even finish his sentence, our boy is already charging forward at top speed. This is the moment he's been waiting for his entire life. With a confident smirk, Chelu decides it's time to test his strength and unloads a massive punch on the nearest goblin. The poor creature goes flying backward, crashing through everything in its path. Our hero finally feels that familiar, massive adrenaline rush, and it's driving him absolutely wild. His barbarian instincts are screaming for more. As he takes out the rest of the goblins with his bare hands, Chelu feels a thrill of excitement about finally facing Doomsday. Meanwhile, Ginty is just speechless, watching how easily his friend is wiping the floor with these monsters. The moment the last goblin falls, its body pixelates and vanishes into thin air, leaving behind a single shiny golden coin. A system panel pops up to explain that this is a goblin coin, the basic currency used on the planet Nova. Though this one is a special, non-transferable version that's only for the Doomsday exam. The instant the coin touches our hero's hand, another system window appears. It announces that he's now qualified to become a citizen of Nova and tells him to step through the portal to enter the new world. Watching from behind, Ginta is still struggling to process what any of this actually means. Our protagonist scans the area and points to a dark void, identifying it as the portal. A little later, we see Ginta, and he's looking pretty rough, with his face and head all swollen from the goblin fight. Clutching a makeshift club, he starts yelling at Chelu, demanding to know why he basically threw him to the wolves. Or, goblins. Our boy calmly reminds him that since the coins are non-transferable, Ginta has to earn his own coin if he wants to move on. But even with the explanation, Ginta isn't having it, and keeps on complaining. Right in the middle of his rant, a lone goblin charges straight for him with its weapon raised. Ginta totally panics since he thought they'd gotten rid of all of them. Just in the nick of time, Chelu steps in and slams the goblin into the dirt. He reminds his friend once again that real strength only comes from facing the fight head-on. Still, our hero takes responsibility for Ginty's safety, admitting that his friend wouldn't even be in this mess if it weren't for him. A bruised and battered Ginte thanks him, pointing out that at least he finally managed to finish the quest. Elsewhere, a couple of soldiers are using binoculars to track down their missing duffel bag. It seems some goblins made off with their supplies, and the pair decides it's time to go eliminate the thieves. But before they can make their move, Chelu stumbles upon the bag first. He quickly grabs the useful supplies, knowing they'll be crucial for survival. But when the soldiers spot a figure near their gear, they immediately aim their guns, mistaking our hero for another monster. Luckily, they figure out their mistake before they start shooting. Later, the four of them are cooking together when the soldiers apologize for the mix-up, but Chelu just brushes it off. One of the soldiers is blown away that the two of them are completely unarmed in such a dangerous area. Ginte explains they stumbled in here by accident, having no idea what this place was. He curiously asks if the military is involved and if the stuff on the system windows is legit. A soldier confirms it, revealing that the government is prepping for the end of the world. He explains that Nova is a planet stuck in a prehistoric era, and it's up to teams to rebuild civilization from the ground up. All sorts of companies and groups are already making moves competing behind the scenes to get a leg up in this new world. Our protagonist asks if Nova is as crawling with monsters as this training area. The soldier clarifies that this place is just a trial run. Nova is the real deal. He stresses how important it is to train here since the actual planet is going to be way tougher. Out of the blue, the soldier decides to give them a duffel bag packed with enough food and weapons for the both of them. While Ginta is genuinely thankful, hearing how tough Nova is only gets our hero more fired up. In the middle of the night, Chelu decides to go hunting again, dragging a very confused Ginte along with him. Ginte doesn't get why they need to fight more when they've already passed the test, but Chelu explains they can't afford to relax after what the soldiers told them. He's convinced they need to get a lot stronger. They soon spot a rickety-looking tower made of sticks where a figure is giving off a weird aura. It looks like a goblin, but way more intimidating. Ginte points out it looks physically different from the ones they fought earlier, but our protagonist is just thrilled for a new challenge. He charges straight ahead, leaving Ginte in the dust, as the goblins at the base of the tower spot him coming. But before they can even blink, our boy takes them out. The elite goblin at the top of the tower spots Chelu climbing up to face it. Our hero is pumped to take down the target, but the creature suddenly casts a spell, zapping its staff with powerful lightning. Caught completely off guard by magic, Chelu gets hit head-on by the bolt. Ginte screams in a panic as the goblin smirks, totally satisfied. But to its surprise, Chelu isn't down for the count. Even scorched from the blast, he's still buzzing with excitement. The goblin zaps him with another bolt of lightning. Our protagonist doesn't even flinch. He just grits his teeth through the pain as electricity crackles down his spine, revealing that he's more than just some barbarian. He's the son of a great sorceress. As he finally reaches the top, he unleashes his own powerful lightning and screams that what doesn't kill him makes him stronger. In a flash, his power completely obliterates the entire tower. Chelu comes crashing down with the debris. Lying there completely charred, he just smirks at his little brush with death. He's grateful for the magic resistance he inherited from his mom. Along with more coins, he gets a glowing golden orb that the system identifies as an orb of magic. This is a non-transferable item that permanently boosts the user's magical ability, and it costs 10 coins to activate. Our hero can't help but wonder if he's actually gained the powers of a sorcerer. The moment the orb merges with him, his wounds heal instantly. He feels an incredible surge of power that leaves him completely stunned. Ginte runs over, completely amazed that his friend is still alive after those lightning strikes. He's starting to wonder if Chelu is even human. The warrior just mutters his own name in a daze, which really starts to worry Ginta. But the quiet moment doesn't last long as Chelu is suddenly raring to go for another hunt. His new plan is to find the next spot where they can track down more of those sorcerer goblins and their orbs. Ginte freaks out, yelling for him to stop. The next morning, Ginte steps out of his tent to find that our boy has literally been hunting all night long. Chelu proudly shows off his collection of orbs for magic strength and sensation. He's dying to test out his new powers, feeling way stronger than he did just a day ago. All of a sudden, a system panel pops up to announce that 24 hours have passed. Boss monsters will now start spawning in the area. These are creatures that newbies aren't expected to beat, and the system orders everyone to escape immediately. Ginte starts panicking and insists they use the portal to get out of there, but our protagonist is having none of it. He's way too tempted by the chance to fight even tougher enemies. Before long, a junior ogre emerges, the boss monster for the beginner's test. The soldiers try to shoot the hand holding its massive club, but the bullets just bounce right off. Just as the ogre is about to smash them, our hero jumps in and completely shatters the club. Standing before the beast, Chelu is absolutely thrilled to finally fight something bigger than him. He tells everyone to clear out so he can take the ogre down all by himself. With everything he's got, Chelu lands a powerful blow on the ogre, but to his shock, the beast doesn't even feel it. To our hero, it feels like he's punching solid steel, not skin. Just then, the boss breaks free from the young man's hold, sending him flying backward with incredible force. Watching the one-sided beatdown from the sidelines, Gente realizes the ogre is way out of our boys' league. One of the two soldiers from before remarks that it's impressive Shu has even lasted this long since boss monsters aren't usually meant to be soloed. He explains that you typically need a tank on your team just to have a shot against a beast like that. Sprawled on the ground, our protagonist can't believe how powerful the ogre is. He took massive damage from just one hit and has to admit the creature is stronger. Just then, the boss winds up for a devastating blow, but luckily, our hero manages to dodge it. In that instant, Shu decides against a direct confrontation. The ogre starts throwing a flurry of punches, but Shu skillfully dodges every single one. Our protagonist notices that the monster's attack patterns are surprisingly simple and easy to predict. So he quickly slides in, grabs the creature's arm, and uses its own momentum and weight against it. With a determined roar, our boy swings the beast by its arm and slams it hard onto the ground, immediately following up with a powerful punch straight to the monster's jaw. The ogre is down, its teeth shattered and mouth bleeding. But the fight isn't over. Shu jumps on his opponent, landing a relentless barrage of punches. The soldiers watch in disbelief, completely stunned that he's taking down a boss monster with his bare hands. Shu stands tall over his fallen foe, confidently declaring that he has overcome a monster stronger than himself. This victory only fuels his excitement. Now he's eager to find even more boss monsters or other powerful challengers. The moment the defeated ogre pixelates and vanishes, a black orb materializes in its place. As our hero wonders what it does, a new system window pops up. He's a little surprised when he reads the notification. Later by the portal, the two soldiers thank our hero for the rescue, but Shu just shrugs, saying he only did it because he wanted to fight the ogre. One of the soldiers advises them to stock up at the shed before they head to Nova. He explains that only items bought from the shed can be taken to Nova. Inside, they're surprised to find the shop is run by a talking goblin. The two soldiers take their leave to report back, and a greedy-looking Gente immediately asks our boy how he plans to spend the coins they earned. For our protagonist, the decision is a no-brainer. A little later, they've spent all their coins on new weapons from the shed. Gente is hyped to start the next stage with their new gear. Suddenly, a system window pops up, notifying them that they've met the requirements to enter Nova as a portal materializes before them. As they're about to leave for another planet, Gente asks our hero if he's nervous. Shu feels the exact opposite, buzzing with excitement for whatever comes next. A massive beam of light engulfs them, and in an instant, they're transported to Nova. They're greeted by an unexpected sight. 2 moons hang in the sky. The planet looks a lot like Earth, but something feels different. Gente spots some lights in the distance and points out that other people have already set up camp, suggesting they head that way. But our protagonist brings up a slight problem. Gente is confused until Shu's stomach lets out a massive growl. Our hero is starving, which makes Gente nervous. He knows his friend gets a little feral when he's this hungry. The only problem is it'll take them at least half a day to walk to the campsite. Then out of nowhere, a beautiful woman appears behind them and asks if they need some help. Dazzled by her beauty, Gente asks if there's any place to find food nearby, explaining that they just arrived with nothing. The lady clearly sees the gear on their backs, but when Gente doesn't pick up on her hint, she just shrugs and offers to help them anyway. She tells them she knows a great spot to find food, so the two of them eagerly follow her. After a few minutes of walking, the woman points ahead, revealing a fishing spot she claims to have found by pure luck. Gente immediately starts crafting a fishing pole from the items he bought at the shed, bragging to Shu that his crafting skills are way better. The lady says she's going to grab some bait. She left a little ways ahead and leaves them to it. Gente feels lucky to have met such a kind person, all while our boy is about to lose his mind from hunger. The moment Gente finishes the fishing pole, the system grants him the production skill. Feeling pretty proud of himself, he gets ready to bait the hook. But Shu's patience has completely run out. Our hero dives right into the water, determined to catch a fish with his bare hands. Gente is completely exasperated by his friend's lack of self-control. Right at that moment, a group of people shows up. It turns out the woman from before brought them here. Gente assumes they're her friends, but she just scoffs at the idea. She explains that in Nova, walking around with valuable gear like they are is basically an invitation to get robbed by people like her crew. 2 men grab a hold of Gente as he finally realizes they've been set up. The woman calls it survival of the fittest and tells them to hand over all their gear. Gente warns them they'll be sorry if they hurt him. One of the men immediately slaps his face and wonders where the other guy disappeared to. Another guy in the group laughs, thinking our hero ran off scared. But right then, our boy emerges from the water, dragging along 2 terrifying crocodiles. He seems to be wrestling with the reptiles, while everyone else just watches, expecting him to become Croc Chow. Chelu reflects on how incredible his new skill is. Back when he found the black orb, the system revealed he could gain one of the ogre's special abilities. And now he hasn't gotten a single scratch, even with crocodiles chomping on him. Our protagonist got the ogre's skin, which is tougher than steel. After dealing with the crocodiles, he walks out of the water. Surprisingly, when he sees the thugs, our boy's only concern is that he only caught enough food for 2 people. Ginta immediately yells that these guys tricked them. But our hero is still just thinking about his crocodile dinner and asks if there's a problem. His friend frantically explains that yes, these guys are here to rob them, and already slapped him. 2 of the thugs step up to take the protagonist down, but Chelu immediately sends one flying with a single punch. Our hero furiously declares that he doesn't fix problems. He gets rid of them. After taking care of the thugs, our hero learns they're from the Yongu clan, a group that preys on beginners. The thugs' leader notes that Chelu is pretty young and wonders what clan he belongs to. Our boy asks if he's the boss, but the leader reveals their real boss is Yongu, the strongest man in the area. Another person adds that our protagonist isn't totally screwed since the boss got super strong by stealing ability stones. While chowing down on the cooked crocodile, Chelu figures their boss must be a real piece of work too. Watching him tear into the crocodile with his bare teeth is enough to make the thugs feel sick. Tossing a piece of crocodile at them, our hero demands to be taken to Yongu. Later, they arrive at the Yongu clan's base. Inside, our protagonist takes out even the higher-ups with a single punch, making every member feel totally outclassed. Chelu has now completely digested the crocodile, which was tough as leather. The clan members are desperate to know who this guy is, but all they know is that he showed up with those younger guys. They start mocking Zhongdu, the thug leader from earlier, for bringing an enemy right to their doorstep. Hearing this, Zhongdu realizes they think he betrayed the clan. Now he's screwed, even if the boss wins. Just then, our hero shouts for their leader to come out and fight him like a man. Hearing the challenge, Yongu finally makes his appearance. Seeing his massive build, Ginte's jaw drops. The boss looks even bigger than Chelu. Yongu furiously demands to know who's been messing with his kids. The 2 of them stand face to face, sizing each other up. Yongu points out that our protagonist is way too young to be talking to him like that, but our boy just scoffs, retorting that the boss must be proud of being old enough to pick on the weak. But to his surprise, the boss lands a powerful punch square in his face. Yongu asks if his mother never taught him to respect his elders. Catching the boss's fist, our hero replies that she did. And she also told him to become the strongest man there is. The boss laughs amused that our protagonist managed to block his punch. Now, genuinely interested in Chelu, he offers him a deal. If the boss wins, Chelu has to join his clan. Our hero agrees and counters that if he wins, he gets to take the group of thugs with him. The thug leader is completely baffled by this. With the terms set, the fight continues and our boy lands a solid blow that sends the boss slamming into the ground. Surprisingly, the boss gets up without a scratch, remarking that kids these days are so impatient. Watching from the sidelines, Ginta is stunned that our hero's punch had no effect at all. Zhongdu explains that it's useless because their boss already has 12 ability stones and more than half of them are for strength. Plus, he also has the ogre's skin skill. However, during the fight, Yongu is clearly having some trouble. Our protagonist's punches are actually getting through his defense. Chelu notes that Yongu is the toughest opponent he's faced so far. The older man skids back, and even though he's breathing heavily, he tells our boy it just tickles. But deep down, he's completely mortified. He then charges at our protagonist to land a punch only to be intercepted by a counterpunch. Shockingly, the old man feels a sharp pain as his own knuckles shatter from the impact. A system notification pops up. Ogre's skin has been activated by the hit. This means our hero's skin has now become tougher than steel. Next, he grabs the old man by the neck and advises him to stay still unless he wants to bite his own tongue off. Just as Yongu's crew tries to jump into the fight, Zhongdu and his squad step in making it clear that no one is to interfere with the duel. One of Yongu's men gets furious, accusing Zhongdu of betraying his own clan, but Zhongdu coolly states that his loyalty lies with the strongest. Deep down, though, he knows this is the right move since they've already written him off as a traitor anyway. A moment later, our protagonist sends Yongu flying with a single blow. Everyone is stunned to see the clan leader so utterly defeated. Yongu slams hard into the ground, causing his men to cry out in worry. Trembling on the floor, he prays that Chelu won't come to finish him off. Our hero draws back his fist for the final blow, only to stop it just inches from Yongu's face. Our boy remarks that he thought he'd finally met a tough opponent for a change, but it's just pathetic to see a boss begging for his life. Afterward, our hero's group helps themselves to everything that belongs to the Yongu clan. As they're getting ready to leave, a kneeling Yongu asks which clan he belongs to. Repeating the word clan, Cheej, our protagonist reveals he's just a high school senior. Elsewhere, Chelu's newly formed group begins to set up a tent. Meanwhile, Jongdu thanks him for taking them in. Our hero immediately tells them to make themselves useful. He then reflects on how barbarians get stronger through battle, realizing he has just acquired his first ever underlings. Still, he feels he's weak for hesitating to finish off Yonggu. He knows his father would have been disappointed to see such a thing. Chelu gets frustrated with himself, regretting that he didn't just go for the head. He then turns to Ginta, addressing him as sub-leader, and asking if he's given the new recruits their orders. Ginta is visibly thrilled at his new title. With a huge smile, Ginta nods, confirming he told them to set up the tents. With that sorted, our hero decides it's time to get going. When Ginta asks where they're going, our boy smirks and says they're headed to their next destination. Ginta presses him, asking what could possibly be in that direction. With a look of pure confidence, our protagonist reveals that his instincts are screaming that they'll get stronger if they go over there. Up ahead looms a massive pyramid radiating an ominous energy, and that's exactly where Chelu is headed. The system, however, identifies it as the Holy Pyramid. The next morning, the newly joined members are all lined up in front of Chelu. He praises them for setting up the tents, then explains his plan to cross the river. He orders the group to stay behind and guard the camp. Internally, Jongdu reflects that Chelu is about to conquer a new territory that no one else has ever dared to approach. When Jongdu asks when they'll return, our protagonist admits he hasn't picked a specific time. He does, however, plan to be back before it's time to return to Earth. Jongdu helpfully mentions that the next portal opens in 4 days. The portal operates on a 5-day cycle, and since it opened yesterday, 4 days remain. He adds that 1 day on Earth is equivalent to 5 days in Nova. Ginta sighs in relief upon learning the portal opens regularly, as he had been terrified they were going to be stuck on this planet forever. Based on this new information, our hero decides he'll be back within 3 days. He also plans to bring his father with him on the next trip, since he can't leave the old man alone on an Earth that's on the brink of collapse. Finding the intel useful, Chelu asks for Jongdu's name. Jongdu gives it, immediately prompting our boy to designate him number 1. Jongdu tries to protest, but Chelu simply decides to call everyone by numbers 1 through 5. A woman in the group complains that they have names, but our hero silences her with a single furious glare. The members bow as Chelu and Ginta take their leave. Later, the two of them are crossing the river on a raft that Ginta skillfully created. This bit of crafting earns Ginta some production experience points. However, Chelu is already getting frustrated with their slow paddling speed. Deciding the raft is too sluggish, he simply jumps right into the river. Ginta is left on the raft yelling that he worked hard to build it, while our protagonist starts swimming and towing it along with a rope. Ginta eventually admits they are moving much faster this way and recognizes how incredibly adaptable Chelu is. Remembering his own past weakness, Ginta resolves to stop running away and step up, especially now that Chelu has appointed him sub-leader. The two men finally reach the foot of the pyramid. From up close, the structure is absolutely massive. According to the system, this is the Holy Pyramid. It instructs the user to activate the sanctuary for rewards, noting that the total activation cost is 2,000 coins. Ginta carefully reads the instructions that have popped up. Chelu decides they should prioritize collecting the necessary currency. To his surprise, Ginta suggests they split up to collect the coins. He explains that even with the world ending, he has yet to accomplish anything on his own and wants to try working without any help. Later that day, Chelu is busy defeating Ostracosaurus monsters, thoroughly enjoying the thrill of the fight. When another beast emerges from behind, our boy dispatches it with ease. After slaying a whole horde of them, he gathers all the coins and orbs he needs. Model. One defeated Ostracosaurus drops a rare pink orb. The system identifies it as a pitch skill stone, which imbues a thrown object with magical power for greater strength and speed. By absorbing the stone, our hero learns the new skill and grows stronger. He then begins to wonder how Ginta is faring. As Shu arrives on the other side of the woods, Ginta lures an Ostracosaurus toward him. As the beast charges, Ginta sprints toward a rope he's attached to a tree. He hopes the trap works, and as the monster hits the tripwire, Ginta seizes the chance to stab a knife directly into its head. He finally defeats the creature on his own. While resting, he assumes our protagonist has already taken down many more. The weapon Ginta used is a bone knife he crafted from crocodile teeth. He sits up to reflect on his personal hunting style, but his thoughts are interrupted when a massive wood orc discovers him. Ginta barely dodges the initial attack. Seeing the creature up close, he finds it's even larger than Chu. As the orc prepares to finish him off, an object hits the beast with incredible force. The blow is so powerful that the orc instantly collapses. Before Ginte can even process what happened, our boy makes his entrance. He just used his new pitch skill, filling a thrown object with magical power. Later, the two of them cook the Ostracosaurus meat. Chu feels grateful he could save his friend in time, but Ginte is disappointed that he couldn't handle the orc himself. He explains that his family is very wealthy, so he's never had to do anything for himself. Chu offers him a piece of meat and tells him not to be so hard on himself. He says that being weak right now isn't a sin and advises him to just focus on training to become a great warrior. Ginte is stunned by these words, feeling that Chu has matured significantly since arriving in Nova. While eating, our hero reveals that he is actually a barbarian. He notes that his kind is naturally different from humans. Ginte is confused and repeats the claim, so Chu explains he's a barbarian from a different planet. This information hits Ginte like a ton of bricks. He asks if Chu means barbarians like the warmongers in video games. He realizes he's seen too many strange things for Chu to be a normal human. Chu points out that he thought Ginte already knew the truth, but Ginte stands up and shakes his head, arguing there was no way he could have known. Now Chu is the one who's shocked, while Ginte is just as surprised by the assumption. Our protagonist lets out a small laugh, explaining he only wanted Ginte to stop comparing their progress because they're fundamentally different. The next day, they return to the Holy Pyramid. Upon paying the 2,000 coins, the pyramid activates. The system grants an initial reward, giving Ginte 2 inventory points and Chu 5. Ginte is excited, wondering if the pyramid contains a subspace, while our boy guesses the rewards are scaled based on the coins contributed. Another system notification appears, granting both men the Holy Blessing, which doubles their recovery rate for 24 hours. Feeling refreshed by the buff, Ginte believes he can finally become stronger and stop relying solely on our hero. Out of nowhere, the orc from before returns with 2 larger companions seeking revenge. Ginte instinctively hides behind Chu, but the barbarian wants him to stand and fight since the rewards have made him stronger. Our hero steps forward, declaring that Ginte has no reason to be scared. Chu instantly dashes forward, leaving one of the orcs for Ginte. Ginte panics, having assumed they would fight the horde together. Without hesitation, our hero drives his spear through one orc, lifting the creature high into the air before slamming it back down to the ground. Just then, another orc appears directly behind our boy, ready to land a lethal blow. Fortunately, Ginte intervenes, just in time attacking the monster and drawing its aggro. Now fighting on his own, Ginte struggles as the orc strikes from multiple directions. He feels like he's dying, his body beginning to bleed from the onslaught. Soon, however, his form starts to glow as the Holy Blessing kicks in, doubling his recovery rate for the next 24 hours. Pleased with this newfound resilience, he begins dodging with renewed determination, fired up by the desire to become strong enough to be a barbarian's true friend. Despite his resolve, Ginte takes a heavy blow that sends him slamming into a nearby tree. Kneeling on the ground, he admits to himself that he's relied too heavily on the blessing, but he notices a silver lining. He can finally see a pattern in his opponent's attacks. Dashing forward, he anticipates the orc's downward strike. After narrowly dodging the fatal blow, Ginte leaps up and pierces his knife into the enemy's throat, finally defeating it. Chu praises his progress, and while Ginte admits he's finally getting a handle on things, he stands stunned by how our protagonist has totally decimated the other 2 orcs with just a spear. A system notification pops up for Chelu, announcing that he's unlocked the Spear Mastery skill. He's thrilled to get a new skill just by using a weapon he looted from his enemies. Ginte points out it's probably just like how he got his production skill. The idea of learning skills just by trying out different weapons gets our hero all fired up. With stars in his eyes, Chelu asks Ginte if he's all rested up. Ginte immediately gets the hint the warrior wants to get back to hunting. Spotting some footprints, Chelu follows the trail to what he hopes is an orc hideout eager to find weapons other than spears. Before long, the pair finds the orc village and takes cover in some nearby bushes. Nearby, 2 scouts are whispering to each other, muttering about how their army would have already secured the area if it weren't for these monsters. One scout is proud of being the first to find the hideout, but the other thinks they should hurry back and report it. Suddenly, a hand reaches out from behind, making both scouts scream. It's actually Chelu who pops up behind them and tells them to keep it down. He compliments their disguises, joking that they were so good he almost didn't recognize them. They share a nervous laugh and point toward the enemy camp. As it turns out, these guys are actually our protagonist's underlings. Their leader, number 1, warns him that if they get caught, they'd at least like to make it back in one piece. He strongly advises our boy to pull back. Even though Chelu is a beast, the Orc Lord makes this place way too dangerous. Number 1 insists it'll take the whole army to deal with a threat like that. But Chelu only has eyes for the shiny weapon the Lord is holding. He immediately gets to his feet, dead set on taking that axe for himself. He heads for the village with Ginte in tow, completely ignoring his underlings' pleas to stop. After clearing out the surrounding orcs, Chelu comes face to face with the Orc Lord. He tells Ginte to hang back and rest while he handles the big boss himself. He tries speaking to the giant in the orc language, but this just makes the Lord fly into a rage. Realizing Chelu is just mindlessly repeating insults he picked up somewhere, the Orc Lord instantly swings his massive axe. After dodging the blow, our protagonist lands a solid kick against the Lord's armor, but the metal is surprisingly tough. Realizing he can't fight this guy barehanded, Chelu barely manages to dodge another swing. He knows if that axe connects, he's a goner. Even his ogre skin won't stand a chance against it. Spotting an opening, he grabs the Lord's arm and decides to just take the weapon by force, hoisting the massive orc right into the air. The moment the axe is in his hands, Chelu strikes the orc down. A system notification then informs him he's unlocked the axe mastery skill. Watching from the sidelines, the underlings are completely stunned that he actually defeated the Orc Lord. Gint is just as impressed watching our boy take down such a formidable foe. Number one has to admit how powerful Chelu really is, thinking he's more of a monster than a human. As Chelu stands tall over his fallen enemy, the underlings worry that a force of nature like him can't just be allowed to run wild. Regardless of their fears, our hero has successfully claimed the Orc Lord's great axe. Back at the military base, Colonel Miran Jang gets a report detailing how Chelu single-handedly defeated the junior ogre boss during his evaluation, then went on to completely wipe out the Yongu clan and the Wood Orcs on Nova. The colonel wonders why such a talent has gone unnoticed until now, and the person reporting informs her it's likely because of his age. He's not even old enough to be enlisted yet. Upon learning that the boy is just a high school senior, she closes the file and immediately orders an enlistment notice to be sent out. They need to recruit our protagonist right away. The soldier, reporting to her, suggests it might not be that simple, pointing out that the boy doesn't seem like the type to take orders. Colonel Jang insists that they have to keep powerful individuals like him in check. Just then, Warrant Officer O arrives at the door. The colonel smirks. He's just the man she wanted to see. Hearing the officer's name, the soldier wonders if she's planning on sending people after Chelu. With a grim expression, she declares they're about to enter a new era. If our hero refuses to cooperate, they'll have to use force. Warrant Officer Jan Huano enters and salutes his superior. Meanwhile, a portal opens up in the Cheongju disaster area. Members of the Yongu clan stumble out as onlookers point out that the thugs have finally gotten what they deserved. Others chime in that it serves them right and that the clan had stolen from them too. Among the crowd, Chelu and Ginte stand watching. Seeing the public's reaction, Ginte realizes everyone already knows what went down. Jiangdu shows up and remarks that our boy has become the hero of Nova in Cheongju. Meanwhile, Chelu is just happy to be back on Earth and decides to head straight home to see his father. But before he can leave, a voice calls out his name. It's Second Lieutenant Seong Choi, who's arrived to deliver a proposal from the army. Our protagonist is confused while Ginte can't help but notice that the officer is pretty cute. Shung begins her explanation, but without hearing her out. Chelu turns to leave. A panicked Shung yells for him to wait, and in disbelief at being ignored, she shouts that they're offering him a spot as a commissioned officer. Ginte is stunned to hear that our hero could jump straight to the upper ranks, but Chelu remains completely uninterested. Shung is furious, but her subordinate reminds her that guys like him are tough to handle. He then calls Chelu a rude high school poser and lands a solid kick on him. This man is none other than Officer O, who smugly asks if our boy is ready to talk now. Before Chelu can even get his footing, O unleashes a flurry of rapid kicks. Feeling the sheer power behind the strikes, Chelu has to admit the man is incredibly strong and fast. Officer O mocks him, calling him a total rookie compared to the fighters in Neo Soul, a name Chelu has never heard before. O continues his lecture, telling the boy to just accept his duty and serve, adding that he'd be the one to mentor him once he joins. Chelu realizes that all the true powerhouses must be on Nova. He knows that if he hadn't leveled up himself, an opponent like this soldier would have been impossible to beat. When O demands a decision, our protagonist just laughs, remarking that the officer certainly seems like a big shot from Nova. Chelu switches into fighting mode. He's going all out to win this because there's no way he's enlisting. Officer O thinks the threat is cute, right up until our hero attacks from a new angle, asking if he finds this cute too. With grim determination, Chelu starts landing heavy punches. The officer is immediately forced on the defensive, struggling to figure out where all this power is coming from. Chelu continues his assault, not giving a single inch. O is baffled, since he was sure this was the kid's first time on Nova. And yet, he can't seem to counter a single attack. His pride as a ranker on the line, O lunges forward to strike back. To his shock, he's met with a devastating knee from our boy. He starts to bleed as he's slammed forcefully into the ground. Number one cheers, wondering if his leader has already won, while Ginta can only observe that the fight is simply inhuman. A panicked Shung rushes over to the fallen officer. Chelu remarks that it wasn't a bad fight and walks away, telling Oh he'll catch him later on Nova. Covering his eyes with one hand, Oh can only wonder how the boy is so strong. Shung asks if he's crying, but the officer just laughs it off, saying he simply got his butt kicked by a kid. He gets up with her help, vowing to never forget the name Chelu. Later, back at home during dinner, Chelu's father learns that the world might be ending soon. Our protagonist calms him down, reassuring him that he's there to protect him. Pointing at an orc axe, his father says he never would have believed the stories if his son hadn't brought something like that home. Apparently, you can bring items from Nova to Earth, but not the other way around. Chelu asks his father to come to Nova with him, but the old man refuses. He's just happy to see his son finding his own path and insists that his only duty is to keep farming right up until the end. Chelu points out that he could farm on Nova too. While they drink, his father sighs, saying he's an old man who doesn't have many days left and couldn't possibly adjust to a new place. Internally, our hero has to admit the old man has a point. The planet is far too dangerous, and there's no way his dad could pass the doomsday exam. He decides he'll bring his father over once he's gotten even stronger, telling the old man to just wait for the right time. Suddenly the doorbell rings. His father wonders who could be visiting, while Chelu simply comments, "They're fast." Later, our protagonist gets together with Ginta to research Nova. They find that the government has censored most of the information, officially labeling the situation a national disaster. Chelu points out that they're controlling the media to prevent public panic, which in turn allows those in the know to take advantage of the situation. Ginte brings up what that soldier said about Neo Seoul and explains that Cheongju isn't the only place with a portal. It turns out portals are open in several different regions. The government and major corporations have already started developing Nova. Neo Seoul, for instance, is connected to a portal in Payu that opened 2 years ago. Considering 2 years on Earth is equal to 10 years in Nova time, Chelu figures the area must be packed with powerful people. Ginte then realizes why Neo Seoul is considered the #1 spot for leveling up. Even though they won't get any initial activation rewards, since the area is already developed, Chelu feels like staying put would only hold him back. Plus, he figures an advanced area like that will have much better weapons and gear available. After their talk, Chelu decides they're heading out. Ginte points out that they don't have a car since his dad took his away, but our boy just laughs, revealing he's already got a plan. Sure enough, they're soon riding in a car, driven by one of the women from his crew. Jongdu thinks our hero made an excellent choice. He and his men want to follow Chelu as their boss, but they still have some business to settle with what's left of the Yongu clan. Chelu understands and tells them to just catch up with him once they've finished their business. The driver wonders if they'll be safe in a place with such a heavy military presence. Chelu, however, has already decided to crush anything that gets in his way. Before long, the car arrives near Neo Seoul. Our protagonist and Ginta stand before the massive portal. Ginta wonders what it looks like on the other side, but Chelu couldn't care less about the scenery as long as it helps him get stronger. Ginta is completely blown away by the landscape of Neo Seoul. Despite having only been around for a decade, the city far exceeds his expectations. It looks as developed as the Joseon dynasty at its peak. Chelu is also impressed by the progress. Their sightseeing is cut short when a middle-aged woman screams for help, pointing at a thief who's causing a commotion. As the criminal barrels toward our protagonist, he yells for him to get out of the way. To the thief's shock, our hero grabs him by the face and unceremoniously slams him into the ground. Chelu feels a jolt of excitement, anticipating all the new opponents he'll get to face in this city. Later, he and Ginta are enjoying a meal paid for by the same woman who offered them the food as a thank you for getting her monthly savings back. As Ginta eats, he comments on the perks of civilization, remembering the days he had to survive on nothing but crocodile meat. Meanwhile, our hero has already polished off a dozen bowls. The woman tells them to eat as much as they like since the meal is on the house. While chowing down, our hero insists it was no big deal and tells the lady to call him if she ever runs into trouble again. He then dives back into his meal with a wild energy. The woman feels a bit of relief, but mentions that raiders plague the village, even with soldiers around. When Ginta asks if this happens often, she nods, explaining that things have gotten worse as the population of Neo Seoul has exploded. With a shortage of monsters left to hunt, the strong have started preying on the weak. This news just makes Chelu more excited to turn these villains into his prey. The lady advises them to get the discovery skill before getting into any more fights. When our protagonist asks what that is, she realizes they must be new here. She explains that discovery is a crucial skill in this region and can be learned by hunting the eagle owls in the local hunting grounds. This ability lets a person see the attributes of others. Ginta gets excited realizing they could finally check their own stats. Our hero immediately stands up ready to go hunt some owls. Seeing that they're barehanded, the woman suggests they buy some gear first. The duo eventually leaves a leather shop decked out in newly purchased armor, though they're still missing proper weapons. Following the woman's advice, they head to the Yongho workshop, which is supposedly run by a master craftsman. A drunken man stumbles up behind them and asks what their business is. Chelu says they're looking for weapons, while Ginta complains about how strongly the man reeks of booze. The drunkard walks past them, pointing out that they're unarmed. Ginta asks if the smith takes custom orders, saying he heard the man can forge anything. The drunken man reveals that most of the workshops in Neo Seoul have closed down. When our hero asks why, the blacksmith explains that iron has become incredibly rare ever since bandits took over the mines on Obong Mountain. Chelu asks if these are the same bandits who robbed the townspeople. The smith confirms it, adding that the group is led by the Big Three. Sebes and Sotsibias. The main leader is Ho Jang, a total nightmare of a man who executes anyone who stands in his way. He has a bounty of 100,000 goblin coins, and his crew is so powerful that even the army is helpless against them. A full-blown war would throw all of Neo Seoul into a major crisis. This danger, of course, only gets our hero more fired up. Summoning his orc's broadaxe, he asks if the blacksmith will get back to work if they take care of Hojang. The man instantly recognizes the weapon and wonders how a kid like him got such a valuable item, but Chelu just demands a straight answer. The blacksmith agrees, promising that if the workshop reopens, he will forge any weapon their hearts desire. Our protagonist tells the man to sober up in the meantime, declaring that he's going to wipe out the bandits of Obong Mountain. With that, the pair starts their journey toward the peaks. As they walk, Ginta asks why he needs another weapon when the axe is already so powerful. Chelu explains that different enemies call for different fighting styles, so it's always best to be prepared. Ginta gets it, but he's worried about how many other fighters are in the area. He frets they won't even get a chance at an owl and grumbles that things were much simpler back at the Cheongju portal. Our hero quickly comes up with a plan. Using his pitch skill, he throws a small rock that nails an owl dead on, knocking it out in one hit. However, he reveals he was actually aiming for a different target he had sensed nearby. From the defeated owl, our hero acquires the discovery skill, letting him analyze abilities. He immediately checks his own status window, looking over his traits and skills. He's surprised to see he has the blessing of the fairy, which is bizarre since barbarians and fairies are natural-born enemies. His train of thought is derailed when Ginta asks him to check his stats. After seeing a whole lot of nothing, our protagonist just tells his friend he needs to grind more. Meanwhile, two figures are watching them from the shadows. First Sergeant Yongsuki and Captain Junop Choi. The captain's bleeding slightly. Turns out that stone Chelu chucked was actually aimed at him, but an owl just happened to fly into its path, leaving Junop with only a scratch. He can't help but wonder if our hero somehow sensed they were there. Remembering that Chelu had already taken down Officer O, Junop decides he's got to recruit this kid. As Yongsu watches the pair head toward Obong Mountain, Junop starts sweating bullets, convinced the boys are walking straight into a death trap. And sure enough, they soon wander right into bandit territory. The outlaws spot them immediately and start mocking them for being brave enough or stupid enough to trespass. But the moment they lay eyes on that orc axe, their greed takes over. Their leader, Ho Yang, watches with a hungry grin, ready to start the hunt. Before long, they spot Obong Mountain, which seems to be the place the blacksmith told them about. Chelu casually mentions they've walked a pretty long way without bumping into any bandits. His friend, looking worried, asks if he can really handle them. He points out that these bandits are rumored to be super strong, but our hero just brushes it off, saying there's no way he'll lose to a bunch of idiots, adding that he's itching to test out his new axe. Suddenly, he senses something. With lightning-fast reflexes, he whips around and slices a volley of incoming arrows right out of the air. Our protagonist can tell there are a bunch of enemies hidden in the woods. He sees them pull back as a thick fog rolls in. Chelu immediately realizes it's a trap and yells for Ginta to get behind him. As Ginta ducks for cover, our boy activates his ogre's skin skill, using his now tough hide to shield his friend from a storm of arrows. Realizing this is getting way more complicated than he thought, he orders his friend to fall back now. He quickly explains that shaking off their pursuers and escaping the forest won't be easy, and the longer they run with their backs turned, the more danger they'll be in. Just then, Ginta notices a cut from an arrow that grazed Chelu earlier is turning green. The arrowhead was poisoned. Our hero just cracks a smile and admits he let his guard down for a second, since even Ogre's skin can't block poison from an arrow. Ginte furiously calls him an idiot, asking how in the world he can be laughing at a time like this. Our boy insists that Ginte is no match for this fight and tells him to get out of there. When Ginte asks if he'll be okay, our protagonist tells him not to underestimate him, reminding his friend that he is after all a barbarian. As Ginte runs off to get help, Chelu charges into battle against the forest bandits, a grin on his face. Several skirmishes later, night falls, but our hero is still busy taking down his enemies. However, the poison is spreading, and he's starting to get concerned as his body becomes harder and harder to control. But with the sheer determination and willpower of a true barbarian, he keeps mowing down bandits, leaving them completely stunned that he's still on his feet despite his condition. Pushing through the pain, Chelu decides he can't let this fight drag on any longer. He carves a path through their ranks and makes a break for it. He soon reaches the base of the mountain and thinks he might actually get away. But he skids to a halt, finding himself at the edge of a massive pit. As he stands before the drop, he's caught off guard by the bandit leader, Hoch Jiang, who remarks on how much trouble he's caused. Completely poisoned and out of breath, our protagonist realizes they led him here on purpose. With a smirk, Hoch Jiang remarks that Chelu is certainly an interesting target to hunt. Our hero asks if he seriously calls this hunting, which just makes Hoch Jiang mock him. The leader admits it's impressive he can still move with all that poison in him, then declares that he'll be nothing but a smear at the bottom of that deep pit. Chelu's vision starts to blur and he can barely focus anymore. He thinks to himself that if he were some honorable warrior, he might risk his life here. But then he remembers he's a barbarian, and there's no way he's leaving his fate in the hands of some scummy leader. So to everyone's shock, he jumps into the pit himself, leaving the surrounding goons completely stunned. As he falls, our boy curses out the bandits. He hits the water at the bottom with a huge splash and wonders if this is really how it all ends. But surprisingly, he finds himself standing on the barren hills of Valhalla and he looks like a kid again. He wonders if this is the barbarian's inner realm, a place his father once described as a space deep inside a warrior's mind, meant for training and healing. He questions why he looks like his younger self and starts to fear that he might be trapped in his own past. Soon he feels a pleasant tingling as tiny creatures appear all around him. He recognizes them as spirits controlled by fairies. He remembers his status window, calling them a blessing. But for barbarians, things like this are considered a curse. These spirits have been with him since he was born, and with the innocence of a child, he once told his friends all about them. Of course, rumors spread. His secret got out, and eventually his family was branded as an enemy by the entire tribe. His family had to flee and back. Then he was convinced it was all his fault already. However, his mother had told him he wasn't to blame, as the spirits are an undeniable part of who he is. Since that day, he has always turned his back on these creatures and his true self. Tears begin to fall as our protagonist realizes his soul is still trapped in the past by that incident. Wiping his eyes, Chelu resolves to survive, no matter what, determined to honor the sacrifice his family made for his life. Sitting there, our boy wonders if perhaps he can heal his wounds in this realm. He begins to take control of everything from head to toe, mastering his mind and embracing the pain. Finally, he expels the poison from his body into the water. He starts to react, regains full movement, and feels better than ever, as if a massive weight has been lifted from his shoulders. The system shows multiple notifications for poison resistance and confirms that he has acquired the skill. After getting out of the water, our hero confirms this was indeed the power of the inner realm. Having survived a near-death experience, he is now one step closer to becoming a true barbarian warrior. Feeling a surge of excitement, Chelu now wonders how to get out of the pit. Soon he feels a breeze coming from one side and decides to follow the path. After shifting a large stone, he discovers a hidden entrance with a set of stairs. He descends to find a secret dungeon absolutely crawling with hundreds of NLs. A system notification informs him that he must clear the dungeon, which includes defeating the null boss, to receive a mystery reward for being the first to complete it. Viewing this as a golden opportunity, our hero prepares to face the horde with confidence. Meanwhile, Ginte runs desperately through the woods with bandits hot on his heels. One pursuer finds an opening and catches him from behind, raising a blade to take Ginte's life. Before the bandit can strike, an arrow pierces him, killing him instantly. His saviors are Sergeant Yong and Captain Choi. Ginte quickly scrambles to his feet, but before they can even introduce themselves, more bandits surround the trio. Yong and Choi prepare for combat as the enemy rushes in. Captain Choi orders his unit into action, and the battle begins in earnest. Back with Chelu, the warrior has already defeated a significant number of NLEs. Yet he notices there seems to be no end to the beasts. Even after slaying 100 of them, they just keep appearing. He finds this infinite cycle strange until he spots a different creature lurking in the shadows, the Null Chief. Making his way through the pack, our protagonist finally reaches the leader. He reminds himself that the main objective is to eliminate the chief to end the assault. Seeing him approach, the chief casts fire magic at Chelu. Our boy immediately activates Ogre's skin to protect himself from the flames, creating an opening for a counterattack. He then hurls his weapon using the throwing skill Pitch, although the Null Chief manages to defend himself with his staff. Our protagonist uses the distraction to jump high into the air. The chief fails to realize the warrior is already above him until it is far too late. Chelu delivers a crushing blow that slams the monster straight into the ground. After defeating his foe, our protagonist retrieves his axe along with the chief's staff. Following barbarian tradition, he claims the head of the defeated leader to officially clear the dungeon. System windows immediately begin to rain down with notifications. As a reward, he earns the boss emblem, which grants the power to create a tribe and claim territory in major areas. He also receives the great staff of the Guardian for being the first to complete the challenge. Additionally, Chelu gets a bonus, the activation of the world map. As he wonders what this all means, a strange energy manifests on his arm, forming a permanent emblem. Through this, he can now access a map, though it only shows locations he has already visited like Neo Seoul and Obong Mountain. The rest of the world remains dark, but as usual, our hero gets incredibly excited about the prospect of exploring the unknown. Suddenly, a red notification flashes with a warning about the dungeon's impending closure. It instructs our boy to leave before the area is flooded. Water begins to pour into the chamber, prompting Chelu to quickly collect the dropped coins and ability stones before making his escape. Sometime later, he emerges from the water, back inside the pit, wondering how to climb the smooth, slick walls. As he searches for a handhold, he hears a familiar voice from above. It's Ginta. Our hero waves and shouts to get his attention. A tearful Ginta is relieved to find him alive and quickly lowers a rope. Our protagonist feels a sense of warmth, seeing his friend keep his promise. Once he climbs out, Ginta asks if he is all right. Chelu just laughs it off, confirming he's fine before showing off his brand new tattoo. Nearby, the captain and sergeant worry about their next move now that their cover has been blown. The captain decides they must follow Chelu as their orders are to protect and observe him. But he insists on hiding their military identities since the warrior is known to dislike soldiers. Ginta introduces the pair as the people who saved him, leading our protagonist to conclude they are good people. The soldiers introduce themselves and lie, claiming they are merely old college friends. Our hero wastes no time using his analysis skill on them, quickly realizing they're surprisingly powerful. The soldiers start sweating bullets thinking their cover is blown, but Chelu throws them a curveball by asking if they're also here to fight the bandits. Seeing a perfect excuse, the captain quickly agrees, claiming they've got a personal score to settle. But when our hero presses for the juicy details, the two soldiers start to panic. In a hilarious moment of desperation, the sergeant just blurts out that the bandits got his mother. Chelu finds this absolutely tragic, declaring that since they saved Ginta, he's now their big bro Chelu. He vows to help them get revenge. The captain is totally baffled, asking why he's calling himself Big Bro when they're both 31 years old. Clearly annoyed, our protagonist lies that he's 32. This just infuriates the soldiers who know for a fact he's just a high school kid. Regardless, Chelu tells them not to sweat it, beaming as he promises to offer Hushjang's head to the sergeant's mother. The sergeant just freezes up, mortified, sending a silent apology to his very much alive mother for dragging her into this lie. Captain Choi thinks back on the rumors he'd heard. He knew Chelu was competitive, but he never expected him to charge back for a rematch with Hushjang so soon. He asks our hero what the next step of the plan is, addressing him as Mr. Chelu. That choice of words clearly doesn't sit well with our boy. A single death glare is all it takes to make the soldier quickly correct himself to Big Brother. With his ego satisfied, Chelu's expression softens as he lays out the strategy. First, they'll scout the area to pinpoint the hideout. Then they'll launch a full frontal assault to take out Hushjang. He stands there confidently, thinking his plan is perfect. The captain, however, tentatively asks if he could add a suggestion. Chelu nods casually, calling him Little Brother. Though visibly annoyed by the title, the captain stays professional and points out there's no need to search, as the enemy base is right at the top of the mountain. Surprised, our hero asks how he knows that. The captain just smiles, claiming he did some research for the sake of his revenge. Accepting this, our protagonist decides to head straight for the summit, declaring that real men face their problems head-on. On the way up, they're promptly ambushed by bandits. The team of 4 shows off some impressive teamwork, easily dispatching the attackers. Even after getting hit with several poisoned arrows, Chelu just keeps fighting, his body now naturally immune to the toxins. He cuts down one bandit after another until the skirmish is over. Ginta is completely in awe of this incredible new resistance skill. Behind them, the sergeant whispers to his captain that while Chelu is reckless, you can't deny he's managed to get this far on his own. The captain agrees that at this rate, our hero might actually be able to take down Hochjang. The entire region is currently in a stalemate between three factions. You've got the military protecting Neo Seoul to the southwest, the bandits of Mount Ong to the northeast, and the horseback raiders in the northern wasteland. The army has been unable to get rid of the bandits thanks to the clever, fast-moving tactics led by Hochjang. What's more, if they lose too many soldiers in a localized conflict, Neo Seoul would be left defenseless against the raiders. Most importantly, if Major Lee, one of the big three, were to get injured, it would spell doom for the entire city. Captain Choi realizes that our hero defeating the bandit leader would be a massive, unexpected victory for the military. Suddenly, Chelu collapses to his knees, startling the group. They see his whole body is covered in angry red patches and burning up with a fever. Our hero mutters that his head has been spinning ever since he activated all those ability stones. A red system window flashes, warning him that his stone absorption has reached an overload state. The stones aren't giving him any benefits, they're just making him delirious. The sergeant asks if he accidentally absorbed too many, and a sheepish Chelu admits he probably ate at least 30 of them. Shocked, the sergeant explains that this is way more than a human body can handle. At this rate, his abilities will fail and he could die. He suggests they retreat to the village for treatment immediately, but the captain points out that it's too late. They're already deep in the heart of the bandit lair, surrounded by hundreds of enemies. A bandit in the front line recognizes Chelu and taunts him for surviving the pit, but our boy just grabs him and slams him into the ground, screaming for Hochjang. From behind, the sergeant insists that he's in no condition to fight. But Hochjang himself emerges from the crowd, grandly calling himself the Mountain King, only for our protagonist to mock his ego. Hochjang notes that the kid managed to climb out of the pit, but declares he'll finish the job for real this time. He orders his men to handle the others while he takes care of Chelu personally. Charging forward with a flail, the leader attacks our hero, who blocks the strike with his axe. The two exchange a series of powerful blows until Hochjang manages to land a heavy hit. The impact sends Chelu flying through the air and crashing into a bandit hut. He slowly rises from the wreckage. Our protagonist recognizes the leader's immense power and sweeping attack range, making it tough to find an opening with his axe. Unwilling to back down, he rushes back in and cleverly wraps the leader's flail around his own weapon. In the ensuing struggle, both weapons are thrown aside. Thrilled at the prospect of a bare-knuckle fight, Chelu dives into a direct brawl. Jang scoffs at him, sneering that it won't make a difference against a frail human body. Jang spots an opening and lands a heavy blow to Chelu's waist, but our hero activates Ogre's skin at the last second to soften the impact. When Chelu reveals he's not entirely human, Yang just laughs, saying he already knew about the ogre's skin. Taking advantage of a brief opening, our protagonist delivers a solid punch to Yang's face, sending him to the ground. To Chelu's astonishment, Yang seems completely unfazed and activates his own ogre's skin while still on the ground. He playfully calls Chelu a kid, scolding him for being disrespectful, while our hero is stunned to realize they share the same ability. Jang seizes the opportunity. He lands a solid blow to the chin, sending our protagonist staggering backward. The rest of the group, already pinned down by bandits, can only watch in horror. Ginta is especially terrified, having never witnessed anyone stronger than Chelu. The sergeant suggests they grab the boy and run, but they're completely surrounded. The situation grows dire as Yang begins to choke Chelu with sheer brutal force. As Ginta's attention turns to his friend, a bandit lunges at him for a finishing blow, but Captain Choi heroically intervenes just in the nick of time. The defeated bandit smugly declares they're all dead meat, explaining that their leader is using the human squeezer technique. As he squeezes the life out of our hero, Yang taunts him, asking where his confidence went. He then reveals he's hunted ogres on 2 separate occasions. He explains that while he has ogre's skin, his second ability is ogre's power, which allows him to crush stone with ease. Jang bellows that he is power personified, but Chelu just starts laughing, mocking Jang's so-called power. Infuriated, Yang shouts that the kid is just putting on a brave face and squeezes even harder. Still feeling the effects of overload, our hero feels a strange sensation like he's about to throw up at any second. Jang continues to squeeze with all his might. Suddenly, our protagonist unleashes the entire overload from his mouth, leaving everyone completely stunned. After that display, Chelu feels much better. He cracks a smile and comments that he feels fantastic. Meanwhile, a system notification announces that he has absorbed all the stones. Jang, clearly annoyed, calls him arrogant. He furiously readjusts his grip and squeezes with even more force enough pressure to tear a normal person in half. However, Chelu manages to wiggle an arm free and break the hold, forcing Jang to let go of his waist. This gives our protagonist the opening he needs to grab Yang's arm. Seizing the chance, he locks him in a legendary armbar, leaving his opponent completely vulnerable. He confidently applies immense pressure to the limb until a sickening snap echoes out. Chelu creates some distance with a quick leap back as Yang howls in pain, clutching his broken arm. Seeing their boss completely overpowered, the bandits begin to murmur in disbelief, wondering if their leader is actually losing. Even Chelu's companions are shocked to see him gain the upper hand after the beating he took just moments ago. Furious, Jang screams insults at him for breaking his arm and vows to kill him. He snatches a weapon and swings wildly at Chelu, but our hero easily dodges the blow. The weapon slams into the ground, instead cracking the very earth. Now wearing a completely different expression, our protagonist effortlessly sidesteps the follow-up attacks. The captain who witnessed his earlier struggle is amazed by the incredible strength and speed Chelu now displays. While dodging the attacks, our hero catches Jang's weapon with his left hand. With his right, he grabs Jang by the neck, choking him despite his ogre's skin and immense strength. Jang is completely unable to break free from Chelu's iron grip, which slowly suffocates him. Our protagonist then lifts the huge man into the air and mocks him for calling himself the personification of power. Gasping for air, Yang begs to be let go. He's stunned when our hero actually releases him. However, Chelu then picks up the discarded weapon, declaring that it's time to get revenge for Sergeant Yang's mother and the people of Neo Seoul. Jang can only watch in confusion as Chelu hefts the weapon. Preparing to strike, our hero remarks that he can't stand people who prey on the weak. He then brings the weapon down hard on Yang's head, knocking him out cold and ending the fight. Seeing their boss taken down so decisively shatters the bandits' will to fight, and they immediately consider begging for their lives. At that moment, Captain Choi is floored to see Chelu defeat one of the big three just like that. Suddenly, a treasure sack materializes above Jang's body. It's a ranker's treasure sack belonging to the novice ranker Ho-Chi Jang. Our protagonist turns to the goons, asking if they're really trying to make off with the backpack. They immediately hit the deck, begging for their lives. Our hero declares that he doesn't punish people for just following a terrible boss. He walks right over to Yang and retrieves the fallen backpack. But then, just like a defeated monster, Janang's body dissolves into thin air, much to our protagonist's surprise. The captain explains this happens because Janang was a strength-type ranker. He continues saying rankers are basically categorized in the same way as monsters. When our protagonist asks for the details, the soldier explains that to become a ranker, one of your 5 main stats has to be over 50 points. Checking his own status window, our boy sees that none of his stats are even close. This makes the sergeant even more dumbfounded that Chu took down a ranker using pure physical power. Choi chimes in explaining that everyone's abilities are different. Even with identical stats, 2 people can have completely different levels of strength. With that settled, our hero gathers his party to head back. The captain is still reeling from the fact that he beat Yang without even being a ranker, and he's eager to see what this kid will do next. Later on, the group makes it back to the village and sits down for a meal together. Our protagonist hands a bow to Ginta, telling him it was in the bag, and then passes out the other items to the rest of the crew. Touched by his generosity, the captain insists that they should be the ones giving him something. Our hero looks at him curiously and asks what they have in mind. The captain hesitates, thinking they shouldn't blow their cover, but since Chelu single-handedly defeated Janang, he finally comes clean, revealing that they're soldiers from the defense command. He admits they knew who the group was all along and apologizes for hiding it. Turns out our protagonist already had a pretty good idea they were soldiers. Gentai even adds that it was totally obvious from the way they talked. Chelu just says they helped save Gente, so he'll call it even. He then cuts to the chase, asking if they're here to try and recruit him again. The captain shakes his head, explaining their mission was actually to shadow and protect him until they could figure out if he was a friend or a foe. When our boy asks for the verdict, the captain calmly states that since he took out the bandits, they now consider him a friend and an ally to the military. Captain Choi asks him to report to headquarters the next day to collect the bounty for Janang's head. Chu's eyes light up at the mention of a reward, and he agrees to go casually, calling the captain little brother. The soldiers, looking annoyed, point out how much older they are than him, so our hero cheekily calls them his older little bros instead. This just gets under their skin, making both soldiers look like they're ready to teach him some manners. The next day at headquarters, an old man asks his young assistant why their hero still hasn't shown up. The assistant reports that Captain Park of the Special Forces went to pick him up. The elder repeats, "Captain Park," with a chilling tone that makes the assistant flinch. The subordinate quickly corrects himself, stammering that he meant Commissioner Park. At this, the old man finally cracks a smile, pleased with the promotion. This is Major General Junpil Park of the Neo-Soul Defense Operations. Just then, he gets word that Chu and Gente have arrived and tells his aide to show them in. As our boy walks in, the general notes the powerful aura coming off him. He greets the young man and formally introduces himself. Our protagonist bluntly asks if he's the big boss of Neo-Soul. The old man, who clearly enjoys a bit of drama, is amused and wonders if Chu likes to roleplay too. They both take a seat to get down to business. The general starts by thanking him for saving the people of Neo-Soul and brings up the bounty money. Then he slides a new proposal across the table. Our protagonist eyes him suspiciously, saying that if this is about joining the army, he's not interested. The general just laughs, assuring him he won't be forced to enlist. Instead, he wants Chelu to form his very own mercenary squad with the full backing of the military. The general adds that this would be the perfect way for him to build that tribe he's always dreamed of. This definitely piques our hero's interest, an independent group, free from all the military red tape. He asks just how much support they're talking about. The general promises full access to the base use of all Neo-Soul's facilities, requisitions from the armory, and even hot soup from the mess hall. The mention of hot soup really gets Chelu excited. He's already sold on the perks. The general sweetens the deal, adding they'll also provide food and gear for his missions. Thinking this all sounds a little too good to be true, our boy asks what the catch is. The general explains it's quite simple. He just needs him to take care of a few unwanted elements. The first mission is to wipe out the horseback raiders. Chelu's confused by the name, but Gente explains they're one of the three ruling powers, asking how they could ever pull off something like that. All of a sudden, a voice from behind a curtain scoffs at them for getting scared before the fight has even started. A beautiful young woman steps out, asking how they expect to defeat the horseback raiders when they're already falling apart at the seams. Both our hero and Ginty turn their attention towards her. The woman steps forward, feigning ignorance, as she demands to know how they dared to touch her property. Our protagonist, meeting her gaze with his usual confidence, proudly introduces himself. Unexpectedly, the girl draws her blade, remarking that he's got some nerve speaking to her like that. She presses the blade to his neck, her expression dead serious, and says that someone needs to teach him some manners. This woman is none other than the greatest swordmaster of Goseian, and she currently has her blade pressed against Chelu's throat. Completely unfazed, our protagonist asks why he should be expected to show respect to someone holding a blade to his throat. Realizing she might have gone too far, she lowers her sword and introduces herself as Major Yunyong Lee, a 22-year-old officer. Citing her seniority, she insists he call her Major Lee. But our hero just playfully calls her by her first name, leaving her absolutely livid. When Yunyong objects to his casual tone, Chelu simply points out that it's a perfectly normal way to greet someone. She reaches for her sword again, asking if he's really trying to provoke the greatest swordmaster in all of Joseon. Our protagonist coolly retorts that the only reason she has that title is because he's been away. The two of them grow increasingly irritated with each other, reaching a breaking point where a fight seems unavoidable. However, the general steps in to break the tension, offering Chelu some snacks, an offer that instantly diverts his attention. The general then pulls Lee aside to reprimand her for her behavior. She tries to justify herself, arguing that our hero can't be trusted, and reminding the general that she wants to handle the horseback raiders by herself. The general insists she abandon that idea, explaining that they can't possibly defeat the bandits alone. A memory flashes through Yunyong's mind. She's about to strike down a northern bandit, crying out and asking why he let her win. The bandit, accepting his fate, simply remarks on how much she has grown. Anguished, she demands an answer, but her former teacher says his defeat is a parting gift for an old student. Instead of finishing him off, Lee had lowered her blade and turned away. The northern bandit leader noted she was still too soft-hearted, despite his lessons on being ruthless for Neo-Soul's sake. She refused to accept a victory handed to her by a traitor, declaring the army would eliminate the swamp bandits in his place. Back in the present, she pleads with the general to let her handle the raiders alone. The general calms her, revealing he already has a plan. Turning back to our hero, the general lays out his plan. The mercenary group Chelu is forming will join the army in a combined strike against the raiders. These bandits pose a major threat to Neo-Soul, and their swift cavalry makes them incredibly difficult to catch. Our protagonist's eyes light up at the mention of cavalry. He immediately asks if he can keep their horses once they're victorious. He remembers his father, the greatest rider in all the barbarian lands, and realizes he's always wanted to follow in his footsteps. He agrees to the mission. The general thanks him, but just as the deal is sealed, Chelu says there's one more thing to clear up. He walks right up to Lee, and the two of them have an intense stare-down. Our hero states they need to get the hierarchy straight. She readily accepts his challenge, and they head to the headquarters training grounds. Gente asks what weapon he's going to use, and our protagonist declares he'll use a sword. Gente is shocked since he's never seen him use a sword before, but our boy just says the principles are the same for all weapons. He then pulls Yang's backpack from his system inventory. Gente eagerly anticipates a legendary blade, especially since Lee's own sword looks so terrifying. But Chelu is busy rummaging for a rusty sword he'd seen earlier. He claims only amateurs blame their tools and proudly whips out the worn-down blade, declaring himself a true pro. The general is stunned that he plans to use that thing against the best swordmaster in the entire country. He asks Lee if they really have to use real blades, but she flatly refuses to use a dull one. She thinks our hero is arrogant and wants to teach him a serious lesson. Of course, her fiery spirit only gets our protagonist more pumped up. He sarcastically offers her the first move. She lunges forward, declaring she'll teach him the way of the sword, but our hero effortlessly counters their blades clashing loudly. Seeing his opening, he yells, "My turn," and goes on the offensive. Lee easily dodges and reappears behind him, mocking his slow speed. The two then explode into a flurry of high-speed blows. As he watches her movements, Chelu realizes she's not just fast, she's also unbelievably skilled. Lee compliments our hero's defense, then prepares to unleash a powerful finishing move by concentrating her mana. She lands a heavy blow and follows it up with a relentless series of strikes. However, our protagonist manages to weather the storm, defending against her incredible power and speed. Suddenly, a system notification announces that his proficiency with the sword is rapidly increasing. He's awakened the sword mastery skill. With a surge of newfound confidence, our protagonist asks if she's ready for a real fight. Model. Instead of defending, he starts setting his own pace, matching her speed and leaving her completely stunned. In the blink of an eye, our boy vanishes from her sight. She's stunned, unable to track him even with her dynamic vision. Suddenly, he pops up right beside her with a smug grin, declaring himself the winner of their little speed contest. He lands a strike, and even though Lee manages to block it, the sheer force of the blow sends her flying backward.